I lost $1,000 gambling. Does that mean I'm addicted? I lost $10,000 gambling. Does that mean I'm addicted? I lost $100,000 gambling. Does that mean that I'm addicted? Today, I'm going to answer the question of what amount of money lost determines whether or not you are addicted to gambling. Because people ask me all the time, Rob, is this amount indicative of me having a gambling problem? And I'm here to set the record straight. A lot of times I'm asked to do interviews with different news companies, and the reporters are always really kind people. But one thing that consistently stays true across the board is that they want to know how much money I lost as a result of my gambling addiction. And fair play, right? That's a reasonable question to ask if you don't know what's really going on in the mind of a gambling addict. So my name is Rob, and I'm in recovery for a gambling addiction. I made my last bet November the 12th of 2022. Since then, it's become my mission to make videos like this, answering the questions that you will have if you or someone you love is struggling with a gambling problem. And if that is the case for you or someone you love, then smash that subscribe button so that you don't miss anything I put out on the channel, because I want to help you avoid making the same mistakes with your life that I made with mine. All the time, this question comes in, and it is so frustrating. Let me tell you why. So I started gambling when I was 18 years old, and it was through daily fantasy sports contests. Things were really fun in the beginning, but as time progressed, I wanted the results of the wagers faster. So I started doing regular sports betting, which then became basically a slot machine version of sports betting, where I found myself betting on first pitch, first out, no runs first inning, these kinds of things. That eventually led to actual casino gambling, which then involved slot machines. But basically, there was a progression throughout the entire time that I was gambling where I always wanted the result to be faster. I wanted it to be more stimulating. And of course, the amounts that I was gambling were going up as time progressed. But what everyone who asks that question fails to realize is that the amount of money that I was losing was always relative. When I was 18 years old, if I lost 100% of my income, that might be roughly equivalent to 10% of my income as a 24-year-old. But in both cases, and more than just those two cases for me, 6 different times over the course of 6 years, I lost it all and found myself in debt. And the debts that I was finding myself in were again relative to the amount of money that I had at the time. In the beginning, sure, there was $5 wagers, but by the end, I was betting my entire paycheck in one sitting. The last day that I gambled as a 23-year-old, I found myself gambling for 12 hours straight. And during that 12-hour session, I took enough cash advances and put myself in enough debt that it would take me 6 months working 70 hours a week at my real full-time job and a side job I picked up bartending. I was a financial analyst at the time at a hospital. Of all things, a financial analyst and a gambler, whatever. But when I get the question of how much money did you lose, I used to answer it pretty honestly. But what I would always find was a couple of different outcomes. The first outcome was that I lost more money than the person I was talking to expected. In which case, if they were also struggling with a gambling problem, they would say something like this: "Oh my God, Rob, you lost way more than I lost. I thought that I had a problem. I clearly don't. You had a problem." And it creates a comparison game. What that comparison leads to is someone who might be struggling continuing to do that very thing that they're struggling with because someone else seems to be struggling worse. The other outcome is that I didn't lose enough to impress them. And now all of a sudden, anything that comes out of my mouth isn't valid anymore. I didn't have enough experience. I didn't lose enough for it to mean anything. Really, the only way that telling you the amount of money that I lost personally would be helpful is if we lost pretty much the same amount. Then you could relate to me. You could say, "Oh, you're going through a similar situation. What did you do to stop? What did you do to get help when you needed it?" That would be great. But the chances are very slim that you and I have lost the exact same amount of money. There are really only negatives that can come from sharing this. And that's what these reporters don't get. That's what people who comment don't get that don't yet have a gambling problem. The answer to the question of at what amount does your gambling become a gambling addiction is incredibly relative. I could make up a number. I could come up with some arbitrary number. Hey, once you lose $1,000, it's a problem. Once you lose 10% of your income to gambling, it's a problem. But none of that's necessarily true. It becomes a problem the moment that it starts bringing negatives into your life. It is irrelevant, actually, how much money you lost. If losing $10 puts you in a situation where you lied to your family, then that is a negative. If losing $100 made you run off to the bathroom to deal with stress and anxiety, then that is an obvious sign that your gambling has become a problem. But the honest truth is that the amount of money that you lose gambling as a gambling addict is completely relative to you. No matter what someone else lost, if you're going through the shit that we go through as problem gamblers, then it's a very obvious sign that your gambling has become a problem. There is no dollar amount at which point you become a gambling addict. And you can be a gambling addict after your very first day gambling. That is the cold and honest truth. So when I get these questions from reporters, or I get these questions in the comments of how much did I lose, I know that they're looking for something very particular. The reporters are looking for clickbait, something to shock you. If I titled this video, I lost X amount of dollars gambling, it would get significantly more clicks. I'd get more traction, more views. But you know what? It would end up causing pain to the viewer that I'm trying to reach. Someone who is currently struggling or knows someone who is currently struggling with a gambling problem. And when someone asks it in the comments, I know that they're looking to hear a number that's bigger than what they lost so that they can keep gambling. You very well may have clicked on this video hoping that in the back of your mind, whether it was conscious or subconscious, that I would share an amount that would be way higher than you and you'd feel justified to continue doing something that you know isn't good for you. If you've reached the point that you've recognized that your gambling is a problem, regardless of the amount of money that you've lost and or not lost yet, then let me explain exactly what you need to do to quit gambling. And this is a big step. This is a dramatic step. This is for when everything else has gone poorly. You've tried to cut back and it hasn't worked out. You've been lying to other people about your gambling. You're borrowing money to gamble. You're lying about it. You're hiding it from others. There's a lot of symptoms of a gambling addiction that become very obvious if we are looking for them. If you've reached that point, then there's 4 things you need to do. You need to find alternative things to do with your time. You need to limit access to the money that will tempt you. You need to limit your access to gambling itself by doing a self-exclusion or getting something like Gamban to block gambling apps and websites on your devices, and going to support group meetings. Now, I touched on those incredibly briefly because that's not what this video was about. This video was about telling you that no matter how much money you lost or haven't lost yet, if you're experiencing negatives as a result of your gambling, it's time to genuinely consider leaving it in the past. And if you want a deeper dive into those 4 steps that I just mentioned, then check out this video I made on how I've gotten myself clean from gambling for the last 620 days. And until we figure it all out, let's just keep getting better together, one day at a time.